Hello there everyone and welcome back to the channel. My name is Games, and today we're talking more about the Switch 2 and whether or not this console will even have a gimmick. There's been a lot of talk about the Switch 2 just being a iterative successor of the Switch, right? Where it's just more powerful, looks better, and that's basically it. That is what really I think most people are expecting from the Switch 2. It is a successor to the Switch that is simply more powerful. But that's not really how Nintendo generally operates. Usually there is something, even if it's small at times, usually there is some sort of gimmick that really sets a console apart from the last when it comes to Nintendo successors. So today we're talking about what that gimmick might be and why it actually could end up being an attachable camera. Let's talk about it. Alrighty, good Saturday morning. If you are watching this on a Saturday morning, I posted on Twitter, I went a full 7 days without talking about the Switch 2, which means I'm the first Nintendo YouTuber this year to do so. Crazy, right? But today I wanted to talk about whether or not the Switch 2 will even have a gimmick, specifically because there's been a lot of talk over the past week or two, really for a couple months now, but really in the past week about the Switch 2 potentially having some sort of attachable camera, as we now have a pretty good understanding that it will likely have a USB-C port on the top of the console. So if you missed all my videos over the past couple of weeks, basically we had a factory leak from October 2023 that gave us a pretty detailed look at what the Switch 2 will likely end up being, and we actually had a Chinese YouTuber, XNC, who made this incredible 3D printed mock-up based on the CAD files that leaked, basically the 3D models that leaked. So we have kind of an idea of what this thing will actually look like. Now, of course, like I said, that leak was from October 2023. Things might have changed, but this could be a pretty final idea of what we're looking at when it comes to Switch 2. And based off of all of these leaks, we are hearing that it will have two USB-C ports. One on the bottom, like you would expect, for charging and, putting it into the dock and connecting it to your TV, all of that, like the Switch has right now. But there's also going to be one on the top. And my first thought was that this could just be a solution to the charging and tabletop problem. If you remember, they actually released an accessory where you could have your Switch in tabletop mode, or kind of propped up where you're using the screen to play games, and you put it in some sort of charging device. And that way you can play games in tabletop mode. Let's say you're on an airplane and you have the little tray in front of you. That way you can play those games while it's charging in tabletop mode. But I really don't think Nintendo would add an entire second USB-C port for just that. It's a solution that works, right? Like, it would still work for that as well, but I just don't know if Nintendo sees that as big enough of an issue to add an entire second USB-C port that otherwise would not be used 99% of the time by 99% of people. I don't even know that many people that play the Switch in tabletop mode, to be honest with you, so I really don't know if I could see them adding a whole extra USB-C port just for that. But anyway, the YouTuber who made this 3D printed mock-up kind of speculated in her video that maybe the USB-C ports will be used for some sort of a camera attachments, which really wouldn't be that surprising. Now, I just want to, once again, really hone in there. It is speculation. A lot of people are running with it, reporting it, saying, like, she had some leaked information, because she actually says in her video that, like, she had the 3D models or whatever for the Switch 2 based on that leak. She had those before. So, like, that mock-up she shows in her video was already, like, printed and done by the time that we saw it all. So she had that information a little bit earlier than a lot of us. So a lot of people think that maybe she had some inside information and that it was actually, like, a leak that it would have a camera. That's not true. A lot of people were running with that. That's not true. She is speculating in the video that it will likely be some sort of camera that you attach to it, not saying, like, with 100% certainty. But that's an interesting idea, right? Like, having a camera attached to the Switch 2 via a USB-C port, does that even make sense? I don't know. The one thing about Switch 2 rumors and leaks over the past 3 years, back when we were calling it Switch Pro, the one thing that has made me feel uneasy about everything is the fact that there have been no rumors or rumblings of any type of gimmick at all. This is Nintendo we're talking about. I know I'll get a lot of comments being like, oh, I hope Nintendo doesn't do any stupid kid gimmicks. I hope they just focus on making great games on great hardware. That's not what Nintendo does. Now, it is possible Nintendo changes course now and they just stick with the Switch and don't try doing anything else. But that is not the Nintendo we know. Every console, with the exception of a few here and there, have had some sort of gimmick. Like the GameCube, that doesn't really have a gimmick. But the N64, the analog stick, yeah, that's a gimmick. The Wii U, the 3DS, the DS, even the Switch being a hybrid console. But even beyond that, the IR sensor on the Joy-Con, Nintendo consoles very rarely don't have at least some sort of gimmick. Now, whether or not the Switch 2's gimmick will be an integral part of the user experience, that remains to be seen. I don't know if that would be the case, but the idea that it'll have no gimmicks at all, that kind of seems far-fetched to me, which is why I've always been a little weirded out by a lot of these rumors and a lot of these leaks and stuff for the specs and all that, because that doesn't really check out. Like I said, maybe new leadership at Nintendo, they have Furukawa in charge now. Maybe they will just go for that simple successor that is more powerful, and that is it. That is possible. I'm not saying it's not possible, but it wouldn't really follow what they've done ever in the past, like ever. And specifically when talking about the idea of the Switch 2 having a camera, it really wouldn't be that shocking. DSi, 3DS, and Wii U all had cameras. It's obviously something that Nintendo wants to pursue. Nintendo likes their camera gimmicks, it seems like. And I think doing something like this as an accessory, right? Like, this is something that would be external. You would have to plug it into your Switch 2 to actually make it work. So it's not something that would, like, be integral to every game. I doubt third parties would really support it unless Nintendo really kind of tried to get them to. This would be for first party games that Nintendo would not be able to make without this camera, for example. And frankly, I know people will not agree with me. I think the Switch 2 having a gimmick like this is a good idea. A great way to differentiate the Switch 2 from the Switch is to bring gimmicks like this back. It'll be an accessory sold separately, so no games will require it, or at the very least, it won't be kind of shoot in like a lot of Wii U gamepad support was back on the Wii U. There would likely be some Nintendo games that are, required to use it. Like I can imagine a WarioWare game or something that requires the camera accessory, right? But that would be something like Ring Fit or even Switch Sports Resort where it comes with a leg strap. Like it would just be a bundle in stores where you're basically paying for the camera and then the game is like a $10, $20 software and bundled in, right? It would be something like that. And also I do just want to throw it out there. We did just get a Switch 2 game announced, or a game we will likely see running on Switch 2 in a couple of years' time. Holy Horror Mansion, the new Yokai Watch next concept project from Level 5. The main gimmick is a camera. Now, that's probably a coincidence, but also this announcement was delayed from April for some reason. I'm probably reading into that too much, but I do think it's very peculiar that this game that they, didn't announce platforms for, but we can pretty clearly indicate is coming to Switch 2. I just find it kind of interesting that the main gimmick of this game, or one of the main gimmicks of this game, is that the main character has a camera. That's a little odd, isn't it? But yeah, that probably doesn't mean anything. I wanted to include it, though, because I thought it was a little funny that this game was announced, has a camera focus, is a Switch 2 game, the same time we're all talking about the Switch 2 having some sort of a camera attachment. But yeah, this entire thing kind of has me thinking about the Switch Attach rumor that came out back in, I want to say, April. The rumored name that leaked through a Google survey that is almost certainly not real, but it got me thinking about that idea and whether or not that would actually be something they might do, and it kind of isn't a bad idea. What if this USB-C port can attach a ton of things? Maybe the main gimmick of the Switch 2, the Switch Attach, is you're just attaching a ton of things. I think back when that rumor came out, we were mostly viewing it through the idea of the magnets where the Joy-Con go, so you'll be connecting your Joy-Con magnetically. What if you could attach other things magnetically? We weren't thinking of it as an idea of having things attached through a USB-C port on top of the magnets, to be fair. It's an interesting idea. We're talking about a camera, and yeah, you'll likely be able to charge using this port as well, but there could be plenty of stuff to connect here. Admittedly, I'm blanking on ideas. I know some people have tossed around the idea of maybe a second screen could attach via USB. I don't know how likely that is. I feel like that wouldn't be very stable. I feel like that little nub that you connect it to would probably break off with a little bit of force, right? But if any company could come up with gimmick accessories, it's Nintendo. They sold us cardboard because the Joy-Con had an IR sensor on it. Like, there's surely plenty of applications there beyond just the camera. I'm thinking back to the 3DS where we had like the Circle Pad Pro. There was that Japanese Pokemon Treadle Lab game, I think it's called, where you could like put the entire 3DS in this thing and then scan tokens into it or something along those lines. There was also this Japanese fishing game which turned your 3DS into like a little fishing rod with a little thing you can turn, right? So maybe it could be stuff like that. Maybe you put your Switch into it, like an entire shell, and then it gives you more buttons or just some sort of different control options here that maybe make the controls a little bit more tailored to the experience. I mean, that could kind of make sense, right? Now, this might be related, it might not be, but we recently had a mysterious new wireless device filed by Nintendo to the FCC, so I wanted to talk about this because I think there's a chance it might be connected. Reading from Nintendo Life here, and I'll have it linked down below, they say, quote, ahead of the Switch successor announcement, it seems Nintendo has submitted a, quote, mysterious new wireless device to the FCC last weekend. As reported by The Verge, the CLO001 model number doesn't actually reveal what it is, but it is believed to be an entirely new product. The descriptions tag it as a wireless device rather than a console or controller. The CLO001 is surprisingly light on wireless technology. There's no 5 GHz or 6 GHz Wi-Fi radio and no Bluetooth, but it does sport a 2.4 GHz Wi-Fi radio and a 24 GHz wave sensor. Additional documents apparently show that there's no body-worn accessory attached. It also doesn't have a battery and operates plugged in with a USB-C charger, the same ones already shipped with the Switch products. What could be the most interesting detail apparently is the 24 GHz wave sensor, which has led to theories it could be a radar sensor to track movements, follow gestures, or detect nearby activity. Now here's the thing, right? It's really hard to look at this and figure out what it could even be for. I mean, this could be something for Super Nintendo World. This could be something completely unrelated to Switch 2. either way, I do find it very interesting, and since it was filed with the FCC, we probably don't have to wait too long to see this. This is different from a patent, right, where a lot of patents don't ever come to fruition. We are going to see what this is eventually. It's just a matter of when, not if. In their article, Nintendo Life speculates that maybe Nintendo is returning to their quality of life initiative. If you remember that back during the late Wii era, where they had like the Wii Vitality sensor, but then it kind of evolved and they started calling it quality of life during the early Wii U days, and then eventually they kind of abandoned it. This could be something for that, maybe, like if they're tracking sleep movements or something like that, right? There were some comments on Nintendo Life's article that actually I think made a lot of sense. Someone said maybe this is the gimmick, right, with the USB-C port on the top of your Switch. Maybe you plug this device into the top of your Switch too, and it's actually a more accurate kind of sensor bar. Because one of the major issues with the Switch Joy-Con is how inaccurate the pointer controls are versus the Wii. So maybe it would be some sort of sensor bar, and that would be another kind of accessory that you can attach to the Switch Attach or the Switch 2. And once again, it's not something that's required, right? Like, this is a total optional accessory, but it is a way to help differentiate the Switch 2 from the original Switch, which I do think is important. I know people want just the more hardcore Nintendo experience. They want them to just focus on graphics and gameplay and just evolve the Switch from what it was. And I think for the most part, that is going to be the case. That is what you're going to see from Nintendo this next generation. But I think asking them to do no gimmicks is just a little foolish, because we know Nintendo. They almost always have a gimmick, even if it is small, like the IR sensor on the Joy-Con. You can bet there will be something like that they try early on in the Switch 2 generation. Maybe it won't be evident in the reveal trailer, right? Like, we didn't know the Joy-Con IR sensor was going to be used for cardboard until a year after the Switch came out, or about a year after it came out. So we might not even know what it will be when the Switch 2 is announced, and even when it releases, but it's something they might bake in and kind of just have ready for future ideas that they want to kind of act on. So I would love to hear what you all think down in the comments down below. I think as far as accessories go, a camera makes the most sense for this, but I'm not an accessory designer. I'm not a gimmick designer over at Nintendo. Maybe there are more obvious applications for this that I'm not seeing right now, but I do think a camera just makes sense given Nintendo's track record. And as long as it is something completely extra, right? Like, it's not going to be baked into the console, so you're not going to have a camera on there, which will help keep costs down. As long as it is something extra, if it is something that Nintendo bundles in with like the next WarioWare game, if the next WarioWare game has a big AR focus, which I think isn't unlikely, right? That would be very, very Nintendo, and they can give you your more powerful Switch 2 and all the more hardcore, games will look better, but they can still do the really goofy stuff that only Nintendo does by having accessories like this, which I personally would like to see, depending on if it's done well. But let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Do you want to see this Switch Attach come to fruition, where they have a ton of accessories connecting to the Switch so they can offer you different gameplay styles? Do you want to see that or not? Let me know down in the comments below. Of course, subscribe here for more Nintendo Switch 2 news, reviews, coverage, content, all of that fun stuff. Follow me on Twitter at BoTalksGames, and check out my other channel at It's Amiibo. I posted an unboxing of the new Hyrule Edition Switch Lite on Thursday, as well as my review of Echoes of Wisdom. Shout out to Nintendo for the free game, by the way. But yeah, to go check out those. And until next time, folks, peace.